Hello, welcome to Newscentre. I'm Parikshit Luthra. After months of would he, won't he, lawsuits, verbal attacks, Elon Musk is now the new owner of Twitter. Musk, who claims to be a free speech absolutist, closed the $44 billion deal last night and tweeted, and I quote him here, "The bird is freed." In a letter to advertisers, Musk said that Twitter cannot become a free-for-all hellscape where anything can be said without consequences. The leadership at Twitter has already seen a churn. Sources say Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal, CFO Ned Segal, and policy chief Vijaya Gadde have been fired with severance costs totaling up to $200 million. Musk is likely to take charge as interim CEO. As per a Punks and Pinstripes report, over 500 people have quit Twitter in the last 90 days. Let's go across to Greg Larkin, the CEO of Punks and Pinstripes. We're also joined by Hirsch of the New York Times, and Apar Gupta, Executive Director of the Internet Freedom Foundation, also with us. Lauren, if I can come with you, go to you first. What's the sense that you're getting from the Twitter headquarters? What's been the mood among employees for the last 1 week or so?
Dour, as you can imagine. This has been a long 6 months. They dealt with the prospect of Elon Musk acquiring the company one time, dealt with the prospect of him walking away. It's 5 months of uncertainty, 5 months of legal battles. Then all of a sudden in 3 weeks, Musk closed the deal, and his immediate thing that he did was fire top executives. And that is not something that's typical in M&A deals. And that is a sign from Elon Musk that he is here, he is in charge, and no one is safe. So it is very uncertain, very concerned. Of course, there are some people who think Elon Musk is going to be Twitter's savior. So there are some that are happy that he has arrived, but there's a lot of fear right now as to what this means for jobs of loyal employees.
Right. And we have seen that already, haven't we? Greg, you have done a study. You asked people 2 questions about why they're exiting Twitter. What is the sense that you got from your survey, and where are these people actually headed?
The tumult between Elon Musk and Twitter over the past 90 days has had a clear impact in driving employees away from the company. Some of the most talented employees and talented technologists have options. And so we've seen that in the past 90 days, there's a 60% increase in departures from Twitter. And it's driving employees from the platform to Google, to Meta, to other social media platforms. They are not leaving and sitting on the sofa. They're leaving the platform and getting scooped up by other platforms. This is in spite of the fact that there's a hiring downturn in tech. So people have options. They are very concerned. They are very fearful, but they're also weighing where they can have the most impact, and they're voting with their feet. And it seems like they have other options and they're taking advantage of them.
Greg, what would be the approximate number of people who would have left, and do you expect that number to rise in the coming days?
Sure. So we have identified that 600 people left in Q3, and that's a 60% increase. 300 and about 400 people left in Q2. So each month, the number of people who have been departing are about, give or take, going up by about 60%. That's only people who have changed their profile status on LinkedIn. The actual number is probably 2x that in our estimation. I do expect that to increase. Despite his reassurances that he's not going to be firing people or laying people off, that doesn't necessarily mean that people want to work there. And it doesn't necessarily mean he has this is a pattern we saw at Tesla. Elon has a track record of sort of shooting from the hip, and that kind of tumultuousness is not necessarily something that every employee wants to work within. And so voluntary departures are a factor at this stage.
Right. Apar, a lot of concerns A lot of views on how Elon Musk will approach issues like what is actually his larger goal? Does he want to boost revenue? Does he want to transform Twitter? Does he want to build a super app? What about his approach towards content moderation? What would you be watching out for? And how do you see his statement that Twitter cannot become a free-for-all hellscape? In addition to adhering to the law of the land, the platform must be warm and welcoming for all.
So, Parikshit, some amount of analysis which has already happened has focused on Elon Musk and his personality. And I think that's well merited because the nature of the entity of Twitter being a publicly traded company is now being transformed to a privately held one where there is substantial ownership stake and control by Elon Musk. There is no obligation on him, in a sense, to give a quarterly earnings report to the public to shore up the share price. In a way, he can act nimbly towards executing his vision. And here the question which quite often arises for us is actually what is his vision? Because it seems sometimes so simplistic. He calls himself a free speech absolutist, but I'll just read what is his 2 lines submission on the case in India, which Twitter has filed against the government for issuing secret block orders. This is what he states in his filing. He says the decision to challenge the Indian government's decisions is a departure from the ordinary course. And while the Musk parties support free speech, they believe Twitter should follow the laws of countries in which they operate. This would essentially mean that Twitter, which has stood up for free expression in India, essentially demanding that government blocking orders need to be disclosed to end users. There needs to be a judicial process in which there's transparency. All of that comes to seizure. According to Musk's philosophy of free speech, this does not fall within it, which is why I say it's quite contradictory. And this degree of nuance and expertise which was possibly there in senior management is not to his benefit any longer. So I think there's a lot of open questions and concern regarding what will be the future path in terms of policy and product for Twitter.
Right. Do you also get a sense that we have seen some conciliatory tones towards countries which are regulating big tech? He said that he will comply with the law of the land in the European Union. So how do you think he will approach the changing regulatory ecosystem across the world? Will he be revenue-driven, strongly revenue-driven?
So I think some hints are evident in his statement one day before the takeover, in which the statement itself is preceded by a message which is aimed towards advertisers, right? So, and it ends again that he wants the platform not to be completely commercially unsustainable, but he is ideally looking at a platform where there's healthier online conversation. And I think that is a challenge, not only for Twitter, it's a challenge for most social media companies. I think his statement that, which is quite often repeated, that he'll obey the laws of countries in which they operate, may not be as easy for him as he's imagining, given that there is laws and then there are legal demands and there is a rule of law framework which is not equal in countries between Europe, in South Asia and Africa. So he'll discover this complexity, and I think it will require a degree of nuance and deft handling for him to ensure that his principles of free speech or a business and human rights framework is respected.
Right. Lauren, coming back to you, we saw him walking into Twitter headquarters with a sink. The employees you may have spoken to, did he give a sense of his vision? Is he wanting to build a super app? That is something that he has indicated in the past as well.
It is something he's indicated in the past and continues to indicate, but there's a lot of, there continues to be a significant lack of clarity as to what his actual plans are, in part because they're very ambitious. And listen, sometimes Elon Musk's very ambitious plans have worked out. So doubting him is a risky proposition, but there have also been, ambitious plans of his and others that haven't. And it's just unclear, this idea of a super app it makes sense. They have been hugely successful in Asia, but many people in the US have tried and they've failed. It's very hard to do a super app in the US, partially because we're larger. We're not as consolidated as a people. So it's harder to roll out. And so these big visions, they got investors on board. They got a lot of fans on board How he's going to implement it and whether he's going to implement it, those are huge remaining questions.
Right, huge questions there. Greg, coming back to you, there has been a lot of debate on how he may go ahead and restore Twitter accounts of people like Donald Trump. Twitter had earlier permanently suspended the account of Donald Trump. What is the larger expectation, and how will this go ahead?
I think the larger expectation is that he's guilty until proven innocent, meaning this is very different than any of the essentially industrial hardware businesses that he has run in the past. Running a social media app and restoring the accounts of people who have historically, or institutions which have historically abused it and manipulated it and used it as a platform for amplifying misinformation or something akin to propaganda, is very different than building a car or a spaceship, where if you don't like the outcome of the engineering project, you can dial it back. And so I don't, there are variables and actors that are involved in the process of running a social media platform that are just fundamentally different than the domains where he's had expertise. To Lauren's point earlier, social media is governed by the people who use it and by the rules that govern what they can say on it and how it can be amplified. It is an algorithm. And so by restoring those accounts and turning into a platform for free speech absolutism, there's a very real risk that it has a destructive presence. It's not so much a town square as it is a platform for propaganda and misinformation. It can become that. And I think everyone, the burden of proof is on him to prove that it won't be.
All right. And we'll also have to see the challenges that he may face in dealing with the changing regulatory ecosystem when it comes to social media in India as well. We've run out of time, but Apar, Gupta, Greg Larkin, Lauren Hirsch, thank you very much for joining us here on Newscentre, giving us your view on the big Elon Musk takeover of Twitter and what this will mean for the microblogging site in future. Thanks once again for being with us. We are going to take a short break here on CNBC-TV18, but when we return, we shift our focus to the draft telecom bill that bats for recognizing OTTs as telecom services. Telcos welcome the move while the OTT industry expresses its concerns. We get you the two competing perspectives. My colleague Ashmit Kumar will join you in just a bit.